Well, yeah, can I ask you about that Liberal housing plan? It seems there's a lot of similarities with what you have on offer. In some cases, it's just a carbon copy. Do you have to go back to the drawing board now to come up with something new to challenge the Liberals on this issue?
No, they've plagiarized my message, but not my policy. And what they've done is created a new photo op fund that has local bureaucracies filling out paperwork to a federal bureaucracy to invite a politician from the Trudeau cabinet to go and do a photo op, mostly to give money for housing that would have been built anyway. What I'm proposing is a simple mathematical formula that says if you build more, you get more. If you build less, you get less. That is the only way we're going to solve this. You'll note that since Trudeau created his accelerator fund, housing construction is actually down 32%. This might actually be the worst year for home building in decades based on CMHC estimates. So what I'm saying to the Prime Minister is we don't need more photo ops. We don't need more spending. We need to build homes, not bureaucracy.
Mr. Poilievre, some people I spoke to Mike Moffat. He said one of the benefits of the Housing Accelerator Fund is that it addresses some of the structural barriers to housing that you've identified that municipalities kind of hold the pen for, whereas what you're talking about, municipalities could hit their targets through complete accident, or they could fail to because the high interest market we're in right now might lead to slowdown in construction. So what would you say to that criticism that this is about removing structural barriers, whereas your plan might not do that?
My plan is about results. My plan says to the cities, I don't care how you do it. Just do it. My plan says increase home building by 15% per year. If you exceed that target, you get a bonus. If you miss it, you get a penalty. All that matters is the results. Mr. Moffat really believes that the solution to excessive local bureaucracy is for federal bureaucrats to then force municipal bureaucrats to fill out paperwork and then analyze that paperwork and come back with another grant. And by the way, their announcement the other day was for one town. So what are we going to see now? They're going to go one photo op at a time. They now have to do possibly 100 of these individual photo ops to cover the whole country. I blanket the nation with a very simple mathematical formula that says to every single municipality, very simple, folks, if you get out of the way and let builders build, you get more money. If you don't, you get less money. Go at it.
Mr. Poilievre, you are both here criticizing Mr. Poilievre for having a subpar plan, but you're playing catch up with him.
No,
so I don't understand how you can criticize him when he's been talking about affordability, talking about housing, urging the government to do more on housing.
With all due
and
respect,
then you announced the plan on the same day he announced it.
We've actually been talking about housing affordability since we came into office in 2015. That's actually not true. We have one of the largest national housing, well, we have the first and only national housing strategy that Canada has ever had. We have the biggest investments in Canadian history. The Conservative record on housing is abysmal, and we're going to continue to have leadership.
Can your government wait any longer to introduce this housing legislation when you see that Pierre Poilievre's numbers are rising in the polls, and you've only been starting to introduce these measures once you've been seeing these numbers?
So again, I would say that since 2015, and Sean can talk about this more, we have introduced many different measures that have had a positive impact, particularly for low-income housing. And we will continue to do that. And the moment has to be right when you're introducing these measures. But I'll let Sean talk about that a bit more.
Sure. Oh, sorry, the papers are...
The papers are attacking. Look, thanks very much. And I think this is really important for people to understand. So first, directly on your question about can we wait to introduce the legislation, we should move swiftly, but I do want to give people comfort that whether the legislation is announced today or a week from now, the solution will be retroactive to the date of the announcement. So there's not a loss for the construction sector by virtue of the precise time that the legislation is tabled, because they can go ahead with the projects knowing that the change will be implemented as of September 14th.
Are you saying then that it would be next week?
Look, I'll leave it to the House Leader and to the conversations that we need to have amongst ourselves as a team to identify the specific date, but I expect you should see us to move quickly early in the fall session. Hold on. There's a second part to this question that I think is really, really important for people to understand. If you actually want to look at the metrics that measures that we're trying to put in place, all of them are directed to specific solutions, and some of them weren't necessarily packaged recently over the summer when there's been a newfound interest amongst wide swaths of Canadians in seeing rapid action on housing. We have been working to address primarily social housing for low-income families since we came into government in 2015, largely through the National Housing Strategy. More recently, we've introduced measures to change the financial equation for builders who are dealing with higher costs as a result of inflation and the result of higher interest rates. We have also put in a new measure. We started in 2022 with the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is now rolling out to change the way that cities build homes. We have previously put measures in place to attract the workforce through a category-based selection model in the express entry immigration system. You're going to see more from us that continue to incentivize changes here, whether it's growing the workforce, whether it's changing the equation, whether it's supporting low-income housing for Canadians, or whether it's helping keep people on the market. What I see with the Conservative plan is a handful of ideas that look, frankly, like they've been pulled off Google after a 5-minute piece of research, thrown at the wall to see what sticks, rather than concrete solutions to very real problems that the Canadian housing sector faces.